In 2025, Russian airlines recorded roughly 800 equipment malfunctions. That is 4 times worse than in 2024. 2 major crashes, 53 people dead, more than in 2023 and 2024 combined. 9 engine failures in a single week, and a 49-year-old Soviet plane carrying passengers flew straight into a mountain. Russia's own aviation safety agency admitted that nearly half of the country's entire commercial fleet had been flagged for safety violations. This is not a decline. This is a collapse happening in real time, and it is only getting worse. To understand how bad things have gotten, you do not need to look at statistics. You need to look at the stories that involve real people. November 2025, a Sukhoi Superjet takes off from Vladivostok with 90 passengers on board. Mid-flight, the engine cowling, the metal shell covering the engine, rips clean off. Passengers can see exposed engine components through the window. The pilot makes an emergency landing. When the airline says they will rebook everyone on another plane, all 90 passengers refuse. They would rather be stranded than get back on a Russian jet. This was not a one-off. The exact same thing happened to another Superjet 5 months earlier, departing Moscow. That crew had to circle for an hour to burn off fuel before they could land. Then, in December, in just 6 days, 9 separate engine incidents hit Russian airlines. A Boeing 757 lost its right engine at 460 meters altitude. A Boeing 777 aborted takeoff at Sheremetyevo after a flame burst from the engine at 185 kilometers per hour. A Superjet landed with a missing fan blade, damaged panels, and 5 destroyed stator vanes. An Airbus A320 shook violently after a bang on departure from Tajikistan. 9 failures in only 6 days, and those are only the ones we know about. The worst tragedy of 2025 happened in July. Angara Airlines Flight 2311, an Antonov An-24 built in January 1976, was a 49-year-old aircraft, older than most of its passengers. It crashed into a forested mountainside in Russia's Far East. 48 people were killed instantly, including 5 children. No distress call was ever sent. When investigators opened Angara Airlines' books, they found systematically falsified maintenance logs, with unqualified technicians signing off on airworthiness checks. The crashed aircraft had been involved in 4 previous incidents since 2018. When confronted, staff at Angara Airlines reportedly admitted to falsifying maintenance records while claiming it did not impact flight safety. In response, Vladimir Kowalski, head of Russia's Rostransnadzor, condemned the actions as a sign of severe industry degradation. An anonymous industry expert told Medusa, "Every inspection finds violations, every single one." In another catastrophe, the last operational Antonov An-22, a Cold War-era transport plane, broke apart mid-flight. The incident was caught on camera. All 7 people aboard were killed. But the key reason why these incidents are happening is not because Russian planes are old. It is happening because Russia can't fix them. To understand why, we need to look at Russia's entire aircraft fleet. Between 90 and 95% of Russia's commercial fleet is Western-made Boeing and Airbus planes. These aircraft are designed to be maintained with high-quality Western parts and serviced by competent, Western-certified technicians using Western-approved procedures. When Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, the West responded with the most sweeping aviation sanctions in history. Every major manufacturer cut Russia off overnight. No spare parts, no software updates, no manufacturer support, nothing. So what do you do when you can't fix your planes? You start taking them apart. Russian airlines have turned aircraft cannibalization into an industrial strategy. Aeroflot, the largest airline in Russia, spent roughly $130 million buying 8 Boeing jets from another airline. Not to fly them, to tear them apart for components. Then they bought 5 more Boeing freighters for another $80 to $90 million. they are purchasing aircraft as organ donors. Russia is so desperate for parts that they are doing anything they can to get them, legally or not. In January of 2026, a Finnish investigation revealed it had uncovered a €1 billion smuggling network funneling parts into Russia. Roughly 4,000 shipments went through over 360 companies across dozens of countries. 1/3 flowed through Dubai, where imports of European Union made aircraft parts increased 15-fold after sanctions began. The United States has prosecuted multiple smuggling rings, including one Ohio-based company that routed parts through the Maldives, and a Kansas firm that was repairing equipment for the Russian FSB. And when you can't smuggle enough, you have to improvise. Russia partnered Aeroflot with Rosatom, its nuclear energy corporation, to start manufacturing knockoff Boeing and Airbus parts domestically. Luggage locks, air filters, lighting systems, certified by no one except Russia itself. An aviation analyst put it simply: a Russian aircraft with domestically produced non-approved parts would not be allowed to operate anywhere else in the world. But cannibalization cannot last forever, and eventually Russia will run out of planes to strip. They knew this, so they promised to build over 1,000 brand new domestic aircraft by 2030. A fleet that would replace every Western jet they could no longer maintain and prove Russia's independence in the aircraft sector. So, how many aircraft did they actually deliver last year? Just one. In 2025, Russia delivered one commercial aircraft, a single Tu-214 that had been stuck in production since 2019. That was against a target of 15 for the year, and against an original national plan of 1,036 new aircraft by 2030. Since the invasion, Russia has managed to produce a grand total of 5 new commercial jets, just a mere 5 in 3 years. To put this in perspective, Airbus and Boeing combined delivered an average of 4 aircraft every single day. Russia's answer to Boeing and Airbus was supposed to be their flagship program, the MC-21. On paper, the MC-21 was designed to be a genuine peer to the Boeing 737 MAX and the Airbus A320, featuring a wider cabin, advanced composite wings, and modern, fuel-efficient engines that promised lower operating costs than its Western rivals. But Russia's invasion of Ukraine made them the most sanctioned country in the world. Since then, the MC-21 program has become an engineering disaster. Sanctions forced them to replace all Western components, which led to the aircraft gaining nearly 6 additional tons of weight, which is never good for a metal box that is meant to be flying in the air. Its range was cut roughly in half. Passenger capacity dropped from 211 to around 135. Even with the smaller size, the price of the aircraft soared by 65%. On top of that, 5 critical systems still could not be replaced by Russia's domestic production, including the collision avoidance system and weather radar. Russia is now designing a shorter version of the plane, which tells you everything about how confident they are in the original. Commercial service isn't expected before 2027 at the earliest, but how things are going, it would be surprising if any domestically produced plane reaches significant production numbers. Another program for the Superjet's replacement has not fared any better. The original Superjet relied on a French-Russian engine. The new, fully Russian PD-8 engine finally flew in March 2025, but by December 2025, reports confirmed it could not produce enough thrust for a full passenger load. The Tu-214 has a different problem. The Kazan factory that builds it also produces Tu-160 strategic bombers for the military. With the war demanding priority, the civilian side has been gutted. A workforce that once numbered 32,000 is down to roughly 1,300 on the assembly line. Airlines don't even want to order it. Aeroflot swapped its Tu-214 orders for MC-21s. By December 2025, the original 1,036 aircraft plan had been quietly slashed to 200 and then effectively abandoned altogether. So the planes are falling apart, the parts are running out, and the replacements don't exist. You would think that would be enough for one hell of a crisis. But Russia's aviation industry has a whole other dimension of chaos that most people don't even know about. Between January and May 2025, the ever-increasing Ukrainian drone attacks forced 217 airport shutdowns across 37 Russian airports. That is more than the last 2 years combined. During Victory Day week in May, Ukraine launched its largest ever drone swarm. All 4 Moscow airports shut down repeatedly. Over 350 flights were cancelled. 60,000 passengers were affected. In July, a single weekend of attacks disrupted over 1,000 flights at Moscow airports alone. 11 airports in southern Russia have been shut permanently since the invasion began. But the threat does not only come from the sky. In July 2025, pro-Ukrainian hackers claimed they had spent a year inside Aeroflot's network. They destroyed around 7,000 servers and stole 20 terabytes of data. Check-in. Encounters froze. Departures stopped, and the website, the app, and the call center all went down. And perhaps the most disturbing part is the one Russia created itself. Its GPS jamming has become so severe that airlines are reportedly flying with their collision avoidance systems turned off. The very system designed to prevent mid-air crashes is the one creating them. The consequences have already been fatal. In December 2024, Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8243 was hit by a Russian surface-to-air missile near Grozny while Russian defenses were engaging Ukrainian drones. The crew was denied emergency landing in Russia, forced to fly 300 miles across the Caspian Sea, and crashed in Kazakhstan, killing 38 people. For 10 months, Moscow refused to take responsibility. Finally, in October 2025, Putin was forced to publicly admit that Russian air defenses shot the plane down. The leader of a nuclear superpower admitting his own military killed 38 civilians and then tried to cover it up was a huge humiliation. With broken planes, no parts, no replacements, airports under attack, can Russia keep flying passengers across its massive country? Around 30 Russian airlines faced bankruptcy in 2025. That's a quarter of all domestic carriers. Ticket prices are up from 40 to 88%. Half the fleet is grounded. This is what a death spiral looks like. Sanctions block parts. Missing parts force cannibalization. Cannibalization shrinks the fleet. A smaller fleet drives up prices. Higher prices kill revenue. Less revenue means worse maintenance. Worse maintenance means more malfunctions. More malfunctions mean more groundings. And there is nothing, not smuggling networks, not knockoff parts, not an overweight jet that cannot pass certification, that breaks the cycle. Russia's aviation industry isn't declining. It is eating itself alive. And for the millions of Russians who live in cities reachable only by air, there is no train fast enough and no road long enough as an alternative. For Russia's airlines and its passengers, there is no emergency exit.